Okay.
Alrighty then. I am Bob Maxwell.
And I'm Marcel Forestieri.
And welcome to our first installment of Operation Voice of the Vet.
Oh boy, I tell you what, we're really excited. Like I said, this is our first installment, and we're very excited about our show. We're going to be introducing you to a fella named Dick Moyer, who he was Purple Heart Club here in Vegas, which is, right. I wore my purple shirt today in honor of the Purple Heart veterans. And he was also part of one of the few soldiers that was part of the Tet Offensive. So that's pretty exciting, and you're going to love Dick. I mean, he's just a little guy, but man, I mean, he used to carry around an M60, which was bigger than him. If you don't think he is one tough little dude, then you don't know Dick.
What he said.
Moyer.
Absolutely. No, Dick, he's a great guy. I mean, my God, that's the guy you want on your team. Better yet, you want to be on his team.
Yeah, if you're going to be stuck in a foxhole, he's the guy you want in. In fact, that's one of the stories he talked about where they were pinned down and he just went crazy.
Rambo on everybody.
Rambo, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Then we're going to be talking with Jay White.
Yep. Jay is the #1 Neil Diamond tribute artist in the entire planet.
That's right. And he just got back entertaining our troops in Pahrump.
Close.
Okay.
Japan.
That's
Yes.
what it was.
Yep. And he had a great time there. And the nice thing, too, is Jay's got a son that's been in the Marines for 16 years. And Jason, I think his name is, and he's a gunnery sergeant. So you're looking at least a lifer there with the Marines, and who knows, maybe more.
And then we're going to have a topic of the day. We're going to read a little story and then talk about what happens with Purple Hearts.
You're trying to, for people trying to get their Purple Hearts during World War II, or even some in Vietnam, that their records are lost. So it's pretty sad. But it's in some cases when they finally get it, it's great. Mm-hmm. So and we have a personal meeting with someone who's going through that too. So we're going to try to tie everything in.
So without any further ado,
wait, product placement. Had to get that in.
Let's introduce our audience to
Dick Moyer.
My name is Richard Moyer, but I prefer Dick, so most people know me as Dick Moyer. I'm from Greenville, Pennsylvania originally, but I live in Las Vegas now. I've been out here 19 years. Greenville is a small city north of Pittsburgh, about 55, 60 miles in Ohio-PA border. So just want to let you know where I'm from. I'm a Pennsylvania boy. I went into the service in October of 1967 and went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. That's where I served my basic training, and then went home for Christmas. I went to Fort McClellan, Alabama for Airborne Infantry Advanced Training, which was called Tigerland then. And if you were volunteered to go to jump school, which I had in basic, you went to one of the Tigerlands, and they had them scattered throughout the United States.
Welcome to Tigerland. This will be your final week of training before you are shipped overseas. Maybe some of you have heard that we've lost this war. Well, gentlemen, it's too damn late to ask those questions. All that matters now is that you practice how to stay alive.
At that time, in '67, they were starting to really build up the Army. So, and anticipation of what Westmoreland wanted to do. Because he was under a lot of pressure from the Johnson administration to start showing improvement or more, some kind of improvement or some kind of positive move, because basically we're at kind of like a stalemate. And so Westmoreland met with some of his high-ranking officers, and that was in end of September 1967. And he decided that they were going to form 2 new Ranger units. And these units would be assigned to field force divisions, not to companies. The LRP, I'll explain what a LRP is. We call them LRPs because everybody, the long range patrol, and they kind of shorten stuff down and just give us unpoetic name called LRPs. So the LRP consisted mainly of a 5 or 6 man team. They would be heavily camouflaged. They would be inserted stealthily into the area operations where we would, wherever Second Field Force wanted us to be when we were under the command of MACV. Also, that was the umbrella over all of the forces in South Vietnam. So a team consisted of 5 or 6 men, heavily camouflaged and well armed. And the reason we carried an M6, one guy carried an M60 machine gun with probably, I don't know how much he carried. When I carried an additional 800 rounds in my backpack. When I could plus, and your backpack could weigh anywhere from 60 to 80 pounds, and that's a conservative estimate, because you had to have all of your armament, your grenades, your survival knife, and you had to take your own food and water for plan on a 6-day mission. And plus all the other armament. And one guy, we would have an M79 grenade launcher with several types of rounds for it. It carried laws, which was actually an anti-tank weapon, but we used it for blowing up bunkers. There'd be det cord C4, and all of the men carried, the other team members carried an M16, and some of them carried their own personal sidearm, that they had. So that was up. And everybody's equipment was very similar, but everybody had their own way of constructing their rucksacks. They knew where everything was, and where their grenades were, and their bandoliers for their extra rounds for their M16 or M60. And when I carried M60, I had a Claymore bag that the Claymore mines were in, and all the other team members carried a Claymore mine, but I had this bag, and I carried 200 rounds in it around my neck because I wanted it ready accessible while we were moving, because I'm carrying an M60 machine gun. An M60 machine gun weighs almost 32 pounds. That's without having any rounds, you have a short series of rounds hanging on it, because as you're moving, it's designed to be fired on a bipod. But as you're moving through the jungle, as you come into contact, you have to either shoot it from the hip, or you can bring it up to the shoulder. You can fire it that way. And they say, well, a little guy like you, I said, I could lean into it. And I knew how to shoot it. So I wasn't afraid of that baby, and I was glad to have it. My team members were real happy to have it too when we got into combat.
Well, I really love him. He is such a great guy, and he has so much to tell. We couldn't even fit it in one segment. So we have more coming, right?
Yeah,
today.
At least another one. Well, maybe 2.
Yeah.
At this point, maybe 3, because we meet up with him again. He may have more stories, which I'm sure he does.
Exactly. So now what we're going to do is we are going to introduce you to Jay White. What do you got there, Bob?
This is one of Jay's many CDs. It's America's Diamond. Jay White. Absolutely incredible. My mom thought he sounded better than the real Neil Diamond. I shouldn't say that, but I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that just love his show.
Yeah,
his
but
shows.
we can't go by your mom because she thought you were a wonderful person.
Yeah, I know.
So
Okay.
her judgment might be a little off.
A little.
No. So let's take a look at the interview you did with Jay White.
Jay White. Today we're joined by a very special guest, the unbelievably talented Jay White. I almost said Neil Diamond. But let's take a look first of Jay in action.
Is that Neil Diamond? And is that Sammy Cole?
In 2008, Jay's movie debut in Frost Nixon had director Ron Howard convinced they had found the perfect match to play a 1977 era Neil Diamond.
So now you see why Jay White is, bar none, by far, the best Neil Diamond tribute artist in the world. Number one, you saw what we've had here. We'll have more on the site. But Jay, how long have you been doing this?
This has been a full-time job for 35 years now. Yeah, since 1983. I quit my day job selling life insurance and haven't done anything else since.
Awesome.
Worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it did. You can see right behind us, we're here at Jay's sound check. So you'll see lights going on and off and everything. But, you know, I've watched you now for what, 15, 16 years?
Something like that, yeah.
It's amazing. And we're friends. And another little tidbit about us is we played junior hockey against each other in Michigan.
We did.
When we were teenagers.
Both goaltenders.
Yeah, it was
actually.
amazing.
Yeah.
But you've toured all over
Right.
the world, basically.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
And you just got back from,
From Japan.
yes, doing what?
I was there to entertain the troops at about 5 or 6 different military bases down there. And honestly, it was one of the best times I ever had. It was great down there. The guys were fabulous.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
How about that, huh?
Yeah, Jay White. I think you saw for yourself how good Jay really is. And we're going to have more on our website of Jay in action. And then you saw on the video there his URL, jwhiteinvegas.com, I think it is.
Is that what it says here?
No, that's an older website. He's got a new website.
Okay, cool. Go check him out, Jay White. Alrighty, so now we are ready for our topic of the day, right? I want to read a little story that's actually going to set up what you're going to kind of lead you into.
And I have a product placement drink here.
If I may, this is just a little quick story here. On April 11th, 1944, Staff Sergeant Edward Mims and 5 other men from the 566th Bombardment Squadron of the 8th Army Air Force, or back then it was called Air Corps.
Was it?
Yeah, they didn't
Army
have it.
Air Corps.
It was the Army Air Corps.
Yeah, okay.
I remember that
Yeah.
from my dad. It was not the Air Force yet. But anyway, he narrowly escaped. He and these 5 men, well, he narrowly escaped their B-24 Liberator just moments before it burst into flames over Nazi Germany. Now, before he jumped, the fire headed up towards Mims, who was at the time just 20 years old. Wow. And the top turret gunner in the bomber, and burned his exposed face and hands. But he was lucky. Less than a minute after bailing out, the plane exploded. Now, 4 men who had stayed with the plane and 1 whose parachute failed died instantly. After escaping the B-24, Mims was taken to a hospital in Frankfurt for 2 weeks, bandaged and treated, and then sent to Stalag 17B, a prison camp in Krems, Austria. He would remain there for 390 days, the last 25 of which were spent on a forced 268-mile march, facing starvation, frostbite, and the constant threat of being shot on the spot. There were a lot of days and nights where I didn't know if I would get home, said Mims. As someone from the United States who had all the freedom in the world and then all of a sudden to be slapped in the prison camp, it was really a shocker. 74 years later, on February 23rd, Mims was honored and awarded a Purple Heart for the wounds he sustained in the B-24. That was like 3/4 of a century. The Purple Heart was 7 years in the making and required digging up documents and witness accounts to prove that Mims sustained his wounds from the enemy fire. His military records were lost in a fire in St. Louis in 1973, according to a press release. No proof, no Purple Heart, said Eugene Parent, a veteran and friend of the Mims family, who volunteered to do the research and advocacy for them. I said, I just felt I really needed to do something for someone who went overseas. He finally resorted to sending a letter to then President Obama in 2016. After going a year without hearing anything, he sent another letter to now President Trump. A month later, a UPS truck arrived with a big manila envelope. Inside were the orders issuing Mims the Purple Heart.
Awesome.
It's cool. Colonel Jason Wolter and Command Sergeant Major Martin Convoy, the Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield Garrison Command Team, presented Mims with the Purple Heart. Sandy Mims said, "We consider it a gift from our country and our president." So the Purple Heart, I mean, this guy, God bless him,
Yeah.
had to wait 74 years
which I'm sorry, but I think that's ridiculous.
It's a miracle that he was even still alive. A lot of folks from World War II have passed away. So
a lot of people from Vietnam have passed away.
Yeah.
And I think it's tragic that any military person goes over, puts their life on the line, has to wait, period. I mean, you did what you did, and you went out there and you volunteered for the Army, the Air Force, Marines, whatever. You go out there and you do your job to the best of your ability, and you get hurt, and then you got to wait 74 years? I mean, like the noise outside, we don't need to wait for that.
yeah, they're not.
So we're gonna
they're
keep
not
taping.
mortars going off, by the way.
But no,
Are they?
it's wrong.
Yeah.
And we know somebody that is going to be on one of the other installments here that's going through the same thing. World War II. He's 96 years old. I don't care if the records were lost or not. If you have accounts from people that were there, all right, and they write these letters or they give personal accounts of it, why not give them what they deserve? I mean, that's a real sore spot with me.
And we can talk about that, what we have coming up. His name is No, Italian guy, 96, right?
Yep. Was it Onofrio Zaccari?
Yeah, we call him No for short.
Yeah. You see why.
And
great guy.
he was in. He's going to be talking about. He was in the Fifth Wave on Normandy. He was in the Battle of the Bulge, and he was wounded. And unfortunately, his medic that treated him in the field died. What, like a few days or a couple of weeks later.
Half hour later.
Oh, jeez. So, excuse me. There's really no records other than the people that witnessed what was going on. So this is like
We're going to help him get his Purple Heart.
we're going to help him whether we're successful or not. I don't know. Just
the local Purple Heart group here, they're going to do it too. So we're all going to work together. And hey, President Trump saw it fit to do the right thing for this guy we just told the story about here.
President Trump, if you're listening, we need you to give this guy a Purple Heart.
Here we go. Yeah,
Alrighty.
definitely. So.
Well, that's our first installment of Operation Voice of the Vet. So until we see you next time, this is Marcel Forestieri.
Bob Maxwell.
And till then, we see you again.
Do we do the
We salute you.
Boom! He didn't say boom.
Boom!